Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, Akane Gets Engaged to Female Ranma, written by Kuji17 Battle. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin. Japan Furinkan High Courtyard. Third-person POV. Backing off with a slide due to the rain, Ranma was unable to stop himself from running his mouth off in front of the stunned Kuno. SHT, damn it. Ranma exclaimed one after another before Akane hit him on the head with her bag. Look at what you did. Now he knows, you idiot. Akane yelled at him, frustrated at this mess they were causing, adding another thing to her mental list that Ranma ruined for her in her life. At least no one knew they were engaged. Now that would be a disaster in her eyes. Why are you saying that like you should be upset? It was my secret I was hiding. Ranma pointed out to her in a verbal retaliation for getting blamed for a sudden rain shower happening at the worst time. It was not like he could predict nature or run away from someone as persistent as this Kuno guy that decided he was their enemy suddenly. The two bickered for about a minute more in the rain before a teacher came over in time to hear her call him by his name. Oh, so you're Ranma Satom. Looks like you really are from China. A man who looked like a PE teacher grabbed Ranma in female form by the back of his shirt collar. The PE teacher noticed how Ranma cursed form, despite still having most of his original features from his middle school photo. It was still clearly a bit different. This was only natural as Ranma took on some aspects of the girl who drowned in that cursed spring. You two hurry up. Or else I won't save you from being punished for being late to class. He said to them, getting Kuno and the then frozen Akane back to their senses, causing them to run after the teacher and transfer student. Japan Furinkan High Vice Principal Office. Third-person POV. That was quite the first introduction to your fellow students fighting Kuno like that. Though it looks like your father made a mistake on the forms he filled out for your enrollment, the man who was apparently the vice principal said as he hit his closed fist sideways onto his flat open hand. Right now, the vice principal, PE teacher, and Ranma were in the office with both student and teacher drying off with towels and the heater in his office. A mistake. Ranma exclaimed, wondering what the hell his old man did now to ruin his life. What are you talking about, sir? The PE teacher asked him, wondering what it was he did not know. Look at this, the father clearly wrote male but the student before us is clearly a young girl. This isn't the first time a parent was nervous when filling out forms and made a mistake. He said as he handed the PE teacher a copy of the forms he had made yesterday before filing away the originals in a secure spot like with other student documents. Oh, never mind, sorry Pops, you didn't make a mistake. But then that means these idiots are the ones about to make a mistake, not him. Ranma mentally exclaimed as he figured out where this conversation was going. You're right. He did make a mistake. Well, the other girls should welcome her well enough once we clear it up. As much as I would prefer all the students to follow the dress code. Forcing her to wear one might be insulting to her mother's culture, and I don't want to deal with an angry mother, let alone an angry mother from China. So, we should probably give her some leeway. The PE teacher said, looking Ranma up and down and unable to see anything else but a young girl from China. Both faculty members thought because of this that Ranma's mother was from China and that was the reason or rather in their view she had a significant gap in the last time she attended school to now. What? Ranma responded in confusion, unable to comprehend how they came to such an absurd decision without so much as asking him to verify their claims. But he also knew his dad would probably never correct them on that due to having to contact his mom and reveal the curse to her. Something the red-haired martial artist did not understand as to why he refused to do so. No need to worry, young lady, I doubt the students will bully you because of the exception we gave you. I wish you luck on your first day here at our school as it can get a bit hectic as you saw earlier. The vice principal said. Both him and the PE teacher secretly thought Ranma probably only understood half of what he said. What half that was, they hoped it was the important half. After that, Ranma was guided forcefully carried to his homeroom by the PE teacher as he struggled against their grip. With the teacher saying they had no time to waste, and his longer strides would get her to class quicker. not realizing it would have been faster to let Ranma run there by himself after being given a rough map of where he had to turn. Japan Furinkan Haya Akane and Ranma Homeroom third-person POV. Since Ranma Satome was in the vice principal's office, according to Akane Tendo, the homeroom teacher decided to make the announcement when they got there. He also let Akane off the hook for coming in late because she was helping the new student get to class on time before Kuno interrupted them. They still scolded her for being slower than usual because of it, but it was just to make his point not to hurt her feelings, as she was usually one of the more polite students. Almost too polite in his opinion, considering she comes from a family of martial artists. You all have a new classmate, so make her feel welcomed. The PE teacher said as he came in, loudly and excitedly, as he put Ranma down standing, facing the class. Shocked into silence and dreading the angry look on Akane's face, Ranma was silent for better or worse. This is Ranma Satome, a new transfer student from, I think their file said something about China. He told them all, but before he left, he told the homeroom teacher they were giving Ranma an exception on the uniform to respect her culture and how it was still appropriate to wear in public. Appropriate to wear in public. Says the man who wears nothing but sweatpants and sleeveless undershirt all day long at school. The homeroom teacher thought, preferring the man would heed his advice and at least wear a t-shirt outside of gym class. This was when he noticed the very silent and clearly scared. No, she was just extremely nervous after such a brash introduction. He couldn't fault her for that response, yet he hoped her Japanese was good enough to introduce herself without needing to turn to Akane Tendo for help. The actual truth of the matter, Ranma was scared of Akane, who was directing an angry glare at him like she wanted to murder him. So then, would you like to say hi to the class and get into the open seat back there? The homeroom teacher asked Ranma and directed them to her new seat, confused as he was originally told they were a boy. But he figured he could deal with it later, as the new student needed to feel welcome despite the apparent paperwork error. Hi, nice meet you. Ranma said, getting it partially wrong as his mind was unable to process what the hell was happening right now. So, when the teacher and other students congratulated him on his good Japanese, he did not realize what dominoes began falling in motion. Akane was also fuming mad as she looked at Ranma, making the redhead flinch as she let out a low grunt at him. This made the others worry why Akane was acting so aggressive to the new girl despite helping her earlier get to school. Japan Furinkan High Nabiki Homeroom Class third-person POV. When Kuno got to homeroom class, the teacher chewed him out for being late but did not send him outside immediately as they usually did. The other students, Nabiki included, thought this was because he was from a rich family, but said nothing. However, today was different, as Kuno numbly bowed and apologized to the teacher, taking his seat, making even the teacher worry if he was alright. Nabiki had tried to whisper and get Kuno attention all class, but to no effect, so she decided to try one last thing before the first break began. Forgetting that Ranma would have turned into a girl in the rain and not having been able to see him clearly, Nabiki thought to mess with her sister, and if their father's stupid idea worked, her future brother-in-law, by telling Kuno about their engagement. By the way, Ranma is engaged to Akane because our fathers insisted, so I suggest you give up Kuno, baby. Nabiki told him in a whisper as she beside him, snickering at the outburst he would undoubtedly have. It took a few seconds before he gave any reaction, which worried Nabiki, and right as she was about to tell him again to make sure he just was spacing out, he shot up into a standing position. If Akane Tendo and Ranma Sayatome are engaged by their parents, then that means since Ranma Sayatome is clearly a girl, then Akane Tendo was born a boy. No wonder myself and the others kept on getting rejected by Akane Tendo. Kuno yelled over the teacher, his sentence shocking even them so much that they were speechless at what he said despite being used to his usual stupidity. Since some of the guys in Akane Morning Horde were a part of his class, they also shot up after a moment of processing it. What? The other Morning Horde members that were in their class exclaimed as that began a domino effect of everyone else shouting and talking to one another. With a few even being so bold as to ask Nabiki if it was true her little sister was technically her little brother. OSHT, what did I just do? Nabiki genuinely questioned herself internally, as not even she could predict what would be happening soon. I must confront Akane Tendo immediately. To think I mistook that strength for that of a maiden instead of the man they were born as. I will turn him back into a man once I destroy his desires to be a woman. Kuno declared as he ran out of class after rushing into the supply closet of the classroom to somehow change into his kendo outfit and grab his weapon. Normally he would have thought it absurd if anyone else told him that Akane was engaged. But since it was their sister, he knew they would not mess up such important information about them. Though he was not upset or against those of the transgender community, he now thought that Akane was trying to run away from her duties as heir to her father's dojo by trying to pass herself off as a woman. Granted, for Kuno this kind of twisted and unusual logic was normal for him, but as for what he thought of Ranma. Japan Furinkan High Akane and Ranma homeroom third-person POV. During one of the classes of the first half of the day, Ranma was called up to write something on the blackboard, with the teacher thinking it would be an easy one for them. Unfortunately for Ranma, while constantly traveling improved his martial arts, his more academic skills along with basic calligraphy skills were left untouched. As a result, "That's good work Satome, but I would recommend you ask one of your classmates to help you," the teacher said, not being able to tell a proud-looking Ranma that he not only wrote the kanji character wrong, but that their handwriting was, though still legible, was very atrocious. Making everyone think Ranma had come from very deep in the countryside of China. Akane however, just thought he was a bigger idiot than she originally thought he was, which was already significantly idiotic. As soon as the first break came, everyone began surrounding Ranma asking her questions left and right. This not only blocked Akane from approaching him, but it also overwhelmed Ranma to the point he couldn't put even half a proper sentence together. "Aren't we overwhelming her? I doubt her Japanese is fluent yet," one of the girls said in a slightly raised voice, making everyone go silent, backing off a bit as they finally noticed how worried and confused Ranma looked. "Sorry about that, so how long have you been in Japan since you came from China?" one of the boys asked in a flirtatious, hoping to offer to show her around afterwards since he thought she was cute and single, for now. "About a week, give or take a couple of days." Ranma responded, not realizing what the tone behind the other boy's voice meant as he never talked like that himself or had it directed his way before. "Then how about we show you the best places to go clothes shopping or a few salons," one of the girls quickly interjected before any of the boys could try to trick the foreign girl to going out on a date. "Oh, I am not really into girly stuff. Ever since I was 6, I was constantly traveling with my old man doing nothing but martial arts training." Ranma responded, trying to politely turn the girl down without giving false hope he might say yes in the future. "So, you traveled across all of China for the last 10 years. What about your mom, why wasn't she with you?" one of the girls asked Ranma with concern clear in her voice because of Ranma's previous answer. But before he could respond to correct the China misconception, or Akane who stood up could interrupt them, someone else slammed open the door to the classroom. "Akane Tendo." Kuno yelled at her, but his tone was much harsher than usual with no affection, throwing everyone off. "What is it?" Akane responded, curious as to the sudden change of tone in his voice after all this time. "It is bad enough you tried to get away from your responsibility as the heir to your father dojo by becoming a girl. But you are also neglecting your responsibility to your fiancée Ranma and are not treating her feelings properly. For both her sake and your family's sake, I will make you accept your manhood." Kuno yelled for not just their class but the classes on both sides to hear him with how loud he was. "What?" Both Akane and Ranma yelled back in confusion, unsure of what bullshit was going on. First off, how, from who, and when the hell did Kuno find out about their arranged marriage from? Second, why did he think Akane was a boy pretending to be a girl? Unless his crazy imagination went somewhere again, they couldn't understand. Which it did. Third and finally, where the F were they supposed to go to escape this nonsense? Before either one could leave or Kuno could do anything else, everyone flipped out just as much as his class did, if not worse than they did. With the boys and the girls asking nervously in worry that this was a mistake, and the engagement thing was a joke. Both sides thought if the engagement thing was wrong, then the boy thing would be wrong as well. But when neither a clearly furious Akane, furious at Kuno, and a shocked mumbling Ranma with a light blush of pink on their face was holding their head had not denied it. Well, it became awkward quickly. For Akane, she is angrier than she ever was at Kuno, and that is with all his past stupidity combined into one when compared with this moment. As for why Ranma was reacting like he did, while they were mostly in shock from the idea of people thinking he was engaged to another guy. He did not even notice the slight blush he got at the mental image of him and Akane getting married, who was wearing the dress in his fantasy wasn't important. What was important was that Ranma had a tendency to either freeze up when it came to romance or getting too close to women. Or with Akane, he felt the urge to sarcastically strike back at her verbally to cover up how he felt. So, any anger he felt at Kuno was overwhelmed and snuffed out by his embarrassment going beyond his limits of tolerance due to attending his first day of classes in girl form being a major hit already. One looking at this scene from an outside view might question why Akane did not speak up. That was because she knew her sister was likely the one who told Kuno about the engagement, and unlike Ranma, she understood their situation. Even if she tried to deny Kuno's gender mix-up right now, by tomorrow they would likely confirm the engagement itself was true. It would look like she was trying to cover up being a boy, especially with how dense the students at this school could be at times. It was best that neither of them acknowledged Kuno's words till they could get Nabiki to deny them in front of the school that he misunderstood her. So now all Ranma had to do was to keep his mouth shut, and they could. Oh yeah, our stupid dads put us together. Ranma mindlessly and finally responded to them to try and defuse the situation himself. The poor choice of wording was due to a mix of his shock and his usual denseness. This caused a striking silence that only lasted for a moment before Akane rushed over, pulling him closer to her by the front of his shirt. But before she could yell at him for admitting to the engagement, their classmates took it as something else entirely, with the girl speaking up first. So, you two really are engaged? Slow down when you two are in public, Akane. Yeah, Akane, none of the other guys are going to steal her from you. Fortunately, or unfortunately for Akane, none of the girls were ready yet to discuss the being a guy accusation, but were more than happy to congratulate her and Ranma. With even a few going as far as to warn her to be gentler with Ranma once the first few spoke. Kuno would have objected further if not for Ranma and Akane kicking him out the school window and into the pool outside in perfect synchronicity. Ranma was still too embarrassed to speak, from the reveal of the engagement. As well as Akane pulling him close like that in front of everyone, adding more to the congratulations the girls were giving them. So other than the moment of kicking Kuno out the window, he was still too out of it to speak. This continued from that point on, with any breaks from lessons devolving to the guys surrounding Akane and the girls surrounding Ranma. Guys being guys, they asked her why she hated the idea of inheriting a dojo to the point of dressing like one of the girls. Especially when Akane made it clear she liked martial arts. Now Akane tried to deny it and say Ranma simply misspoke, hoping to take advantage of the fact they mistook him for being from China. That hope, however, was dashed quickly as they pointed out how fluently Ranma was speaking Japanese earlier and just now with the girls. Ranma, I am going to kill you when we get home. Akane thought, trying her best to restrain herself from punching all the boys around her into unconscious pulps. Girls being girls, asked Ranma about stuff like makeup or clothes preferences, with surprise on their faces when they got their answers. Despite looking like Ranma wore makeup, they found out Ranma never wore the stuff. When they did, they tried their best to remove it but failed, shocked that Ranma just naturally looked like that. Now this raised many questions about his body, given it looked like Ranma was wearing eyeshadow, mascara, and some kind of lip gloss. But it mostly made the other girls jealous that Ranma never had to buy makeup. Even the people who know about the curse at this point were surprised by the fact that the makeup of the young lady that drowned in that cursed spring carried over to the victims. Ranma, however, just found it annoying that the makeup thing carried over. See? I told you that I don't wear makeup. Ranma told them, but suddenly stopped with a small screech as their spine tingled from sensing danger. Or to be more precise, he felt a source of bloodlust directed towards him out of almost thin air. But even as dense as he was, he had a decent guess as to why Akane was set at him. though he would probably ask her later for confirmation. "Are you okay, Ranma?" one of the girls asked him, worried they did something to scare him. "Yeah, you suddenly screamed," one of the other girls pointed out, wondering if Kuno had scared her earlier more than they all thought. "No need to worry, I just sensed something dangerous." Ranma was cut off again, but this time by someone other than themselves, and the one responsible was who guessed it. "I will not be defeated by a single blow," and a panda carrying a hot tea kettle. Kuno yelled as he pointed his sword at Akane. "A panda with a tea kettle. That was probably my old man then." Ranma spoke up before Akane could, actually thinking ahead, unlike her fiancé. As she planned on using it as a segue into the curses of the two Sotome men and fixing this mess. Before she could attempt to respond again. "Your father has a pet panda," everyone else exclaimed, questioning if they heard Ranma correctly. "Oh no, he got me." Ranma, who was done with this and willing to reveal his curse, was about to reveal it to the class but got cut off once again. Which made the martial artist seriously consider becoming a mute for the next few years, since it seemed pointless to try and explain anything to these people. "I see, your father got you a pet panda before coming to Japan in case you started to miss home. I don't know why it was bringing you tea all the way from home in the kettle instead of a thermos. But I suppose you still need time to train it properly," he told Ranma before the bell went off for the final classes, with the teacher warning him to leave. Chapter 2 Previous chapter reviews comments FFN Mugen Muse, heh. Well, this story has definitely taken an interesting turn. Though I wonder if Kuno will hear of magic water that could help Akane. Either way, I look forward to seeing more. Response: though I did consider as to where the cursed water would come from, that is not what I decided upon. But that would be funny and totally in character for a nutcase like anyone in their family. It does also make me curious as to what Kuno mother was like. I can't recall if she canonically declared dead or not, but she had to be her own kind of crazy given what her husband and children are like. FFN0 Testarossa, this is so stupid, I want more response, thank you. That is why I love this series. Every time I read a chapter of the manga, I first thought, God, this is so stupid, but then I would be like, I want to know what stupid thing happens next and if it can top the previous one. It is so stupid and crazy that you cannot help but laugh at it. Plus, it comes with the benefit for anyone writing fanfiction to go nuts with their ideas and the characters to not stray too far off from canon to become essentially OC unless they are a bad writer. In which case even this series cannot be a miracle worker. AO3 Flanbell, your fanfic is so cool. Almo response, thanks for the praise, and if you're liking it so far. Just wait till we get to the second main arc. Also, cute shampoo animation for your profile image. I always loved her character more than Akane but slightly less than Yukio. Hell, even Nabiki ranks higher for me than Akane, with her being second to last on the list as far as I am concerned in terms of girls who liked him. Kodachi just barely beat her due to being too crazy for a female main lead in a romantic comedy. AO3 Hermione_Blackwood, interesting idea, but that just feels so mean to Akane. Your plans for this FIC, but a logical continuation here that helps Akane could be, Ranma takes the kettle from Kuno and just yells, "This is all a misunderstanding, just watch." And she becomes a he and goes, "See. This is how our dads engaged us, because of this stupid curse." Akane actually is a girl. And so because everyone's dumb, they accept that Akane's a girl but still think Ranma is too, cursed to turn into a boy. And Kuno being Kuno, he still believes his own version, but at least the class doesn't think that about Akane. It's just an idea. I just feel bad about Akane having that sort of rumor, that would be so cruel. I'm still interested in where this goes, but that idea immediately followed after reading it, so I thought I would share it in case you wanted to try it. Response, that would be an interesting idea, but sadly that is not where this is going. Also to keep in mind, you said logical continuation, but the student body and teachers in both show and manga have proven to be anything but logical. Also, I don't do it this way to bash Akane, but I just felt that for a story where she learns to better understand Ranma, she needs to walk the metaphoric mile in his shoes. It will help take her ego down a few pegs to stop instantly thinking the worse of him in situations just because he is a guy and make actually trust him enough to listen to his advice or his side of a story. Case in point, the episode where she first fought Shampoo. She knew she couldn't beat Ranma if he fought her seriously, and yet ignored him when he warned her to not fight Shampoo, even going as far as to punch him out a window and throw a table at him. Author's notes: I loved the responses I got so far from the story, and have a minor announcement to make that everyone might like. Though not fully written, rough drafts and Key's ideas have been planned out for the remainder of the first main arc and the start of the second main arc. So I hope you all enjoy what lays ahead for the story. Japan Furinkan High Courtyard third-person POV. As soon as classes got out, Akane immediately grabbed Ranma by the back of his shirt and dragged them out as fast as possible. Akane heard some of the girls warn her to be gentler with her fiancé, but she couldn't care less at the moment. Right now, escaping Kuno and the horde of idiots who will likely follow them was her top priority. Unfortunately for her, the PE teacher tried to stop them with him holding up his hand right as they were about to reach the gate after pushing through the mob of students. Hold it. I heard about your engagement and the truth, Akane Tendo. Just because you pretend to be a girl does not mean you can use it as an excuse to rough with another girl like they are. He did not get to finish as a panda ran up behind him and backhanded him into the tree beside the inside of the gate. Before either student could respond, the panda who was Mr. Sotome lifted them both up over his shoulder to sit there, as his other hand he held a tea kettle. A tea kettle that had a suspiciously similar looking face imprint in it that reminded the two of a certain swordsman from earlier. He would have arrived on time earlier, but a police officer saw him running with a tea kettle and stopped him. Though it was only a few minutes for him to get past the officer, it was too late as he saw the PE teacher pulling Ranma, who was in his female form, into the school, calling them by name. When he was dejectedly walking back, Kuno had come flying out of nowhere, hitting the tea kettle and almost breaking it. The moment he saw the injuries on the young man, as well as his son's bad handwriting on his forehead, the father knew something was wrong. But the same police officer from before spotted him and accused him of attacking the young man, causing him to run away again. Pops! Mr. Sayatome! Ranma and Akane both exclaimed in surprise as they saw him, and he lifted them, only to suddenly use the damaged and now completely broken tea kettle to block a sword move. A sword move clearly aimed for Akane, but could have also hit his son as well if he did not turn around and block in time. So, thou art truly the pet of Ranma Sayatome. Even so, I will not show mercy if you try to protect that foolish young man pretending thou is a woman. Kuno told them, a fire in his eyes that, for lack of a better word, had scared Akane, who had never seen Kuno look at her like that, and she could tell that for once he attacked her seriously, actually intending to cause harm to her. Though he did not have the same natural talent his son or his friend's youngest daughter did for martial arts, Genma Sotome was still skilled with many years of experience to back it up. So, would he lose to Kuno? If he held back, maybe, but so long as he took them seriously, it was so one-sided even he would consider it bullying. With a growl he deflected the sword downward and jumped up before delivering a kick from under Kuno's jaw. This had sent the young man flying just overhead of the horde of students Akane fights regularly. Despite them surrounding him, however, and still in his larger panda form, he was still highly fast and agile. While his friend had focused on a rooted defensive fighting style, he chose to MSTR a fighting style that was closer to their MSTR, favoring mobility above all else. This mastery of his craft did not go unnoticed as he took out 4 or 5 students at once with a single attack. Helped due to his size and strength in panda form being superior to his human form, making his attack stronger than usual. That panda is amazing. Do all pets in China get trained in martial arts to defend their owners? Have you ever seen a panda move like that? It must be using the same martial arts Ranma does with how similar it moves to her. Do you think those idiots will finally stop after losing to someone's pet in a fight? Probably not, they were too stubborn to give up until now. So why would this stop them? Both the boys and girls discussed not caring for their fellow students who took part in the horde that bothered Akane every morning up till now. Luckily for Ranma and Akane, the vice principal had no issues with what happened. A panda beating up his students. As far as he was concerned, it was a good way to teach them a lesson. Though he was concerned about the Chinese embassy giving them the 3rd degree for abusing a panda. Under the impression most of them gave a DMN about pandas enough to cause political issues over a random one in Japan. Once all the students of the horde were defeated, the breathing and exhausted Genma rushed back home. Hoping for an explanation as to what his son tried now to break out of the engagement and shaming their family in the process. Japan Tendo household, early afternoon to evening, 3rd-person POV. As soon as they got back, Kasumi boiled some water for the 2 Satome men so they could all talk about what happened, with Nabiki arriving right on time. So boy, you mind explaining why? You tried to go to school as a girl to break off the engagement and reveal your curse to everyone in the process. Genma in a furious and intense tone questioned, pulling his son up by the collar of his shirt. Yes, Ranma, explain yourself this instant. Son Tendo demanded of his future son-in-law, upset that he may have ruined his daughter and his family reputation. But to the surprise of the 2 men, Nabiki slapped them upside the heads and pulled Ranma behind her. He didn't do anything, it was Kuno and the teacher's faults, and partially my own. Nabiki told them, seeing them turn their fury at her along with her little sister. It's both your faults. Akane exclaimed as she tried to punch Ranma only for him to pull Nabiki aside with him in a bridal carry, as simply dodging it would make her get hit. As much as he was mad at her for telling everyone about the engagement, he could tell she was genuinely sincere about her mistake when she admitted to it. It was also obvious she did it by mistake. He also made his share of stupid comments that snowballed before today, so he knew how she felt right now. Now. Before you all get more violent, let Nabiki, Ranma, and Akane explain themselves. Kasumi told them, making it clear by the order of names that she thought Ranma would give a more honest explanation, unlike her furious little sister who was blinded by anger. It took them a while, but eventually Nabiki was able to reveal her mistake and apologize once the interruptions were done. Ranma looked conflicted for a moment before sighing. Well, they were probably going to find out about the engagement anyways, and it's not your fault the teachers refused to listen to me when I tried to explain it to them. He told her, rubbing the back of his head. Yeah, right, you tried to correct them, you pervert. Akane yelled at him, not wanting to believe him. How many times do I have to tell you I am not a pervert? Ranma yelled back, annoyed she was still accusing him despite how she walked in on him, which despite being her house she knew they had a guest staying with them at the time. Before it could get worse, Kasumi spoke in, a stern tone she rarely used, shocking Akane. That is enough, Akane. Poor Ranma was embarrassed as you were when that happened. So, try to think how he felt about it. Now let him explain his side of the story. Kasumi told her sister, making it clear she understood that Ranma was a genuinely good person, but he just had a bit of a temper. Significantly less than her sister that even she had to admit could become a violent maniac for seemingly no or little reason. Ranma began his explanation with the Kuno fight, the vice principal and PE teacher, and Kuno outburst that happened in class, which was the base of the mess. But as soon as he tried to explain how he made attempts to reveal the curse or correct the other students, he was cut off again by Akane. Yeah, right, you tried to correct them. Because of you they all think I am a boy cross-dressing to avoid having to take over the dojo. Akane accused him, lifting the table to smack him again with it, splashing him with the now cold tea from their teacups. This was when Nabiki quickly scrambled in front of him, with Kasumi placing her hands on Akane's shoulders, shaking her head in disappointment. I know you don't like men, Akane, but I believe him when he says he tried to correct them and failed. If you had just got over your embarrassment and tried to speak up like he did, then you might have succeeded where he failed. Nabiki told her little sister, done with her antics. Nabiki is right, Akane. Unless you are going to say that both of them are lying about what Kuno said, then I can't really find either of them to be completely at fault like you're acting they are. Kasumi told her youngest sister in a soothing voice, getting what she thought was the best response she was going to get. That response was throwing the table sideways, knocking both crying fathers into the pond. Not wanting to talk about this any further, Akane went upstairs stomping her feet, ignoring the two fathers popping up out of the pond. Our families and our martial arts school honor. Both fathers exclaimed in unison. With one of them doing it in a growl as both men hugged each other for comfort as they were practically brothers after all the training they did in the past. Now their concern was not the curse itself, though a bit odd. It would not be a dishonor if people found out like Gema Satom originally thought previously. His friends spent that morning explaining to him that Ranma behaving like a proper man would make it a minor issue for people to overlook. Something the bald man idiotically, like usual, overlooked, like how it was his fault and not his son's fault they were cursed. Their concern was how fast the rumors of this misunderstanding would spread about their children being perverts. Nabiki let out a sigh at this, offering a hand to Ranma as he got back up. I may not be a martial artist, and I may be greedy as they get, but I still take responsibility for my actions when they cause problems this bad. I will try to fix this since those two probably can't do it themselves. She told him, pointing out how pathetic their fathers were reacting to this news. With a gulp, Ranma responded as clearly as possible. My future is in your hands, Nabiki. Ranma told her, before he noticed the time. Nabiki and Kasumi noticed it as well, going wide-eyed. Oh dear, I haven't started dinner yet. I also still need to start preparing all three of your bento for tomorrow also. Kasumi said in a worried tone that made you think it was the end of the world. I can help you with the cooking so you can get it all done. But fair warning, I can only do basics like making rice or miso soup. Any fish grilling will require me to cook it outside. Ranma admitted, feeling bad he could not help all that much. No need to worry, getting help with the rice and soup are plenty of help from you. Kasumi told him, appreciating any help at all. Then I will try to clean up this mess before dinner and snap the two idiots over there out of it. Nabiki told them, surprised that Ranma could handle himself that well in a kitchen. But when she thought about it, such basic cooking skills were probably needed for someone constantly traveling like he did. While all of this was going on, the fathers were lost in their own little world, assuming Ranma went off to the dojo for privacy like Akane did to her room. But rather than her frustrated talking out loud to herself, they spent their time crying and begging their dead, by their own hands, MSTR spirit for forgiveness. Japan Tendo household, nighttime, third-person POV dinner was slightly late, but they still managed to eat before it hit 7 o'clock. Akane at least calmed enough by now to come down for dinner, even though she insisted on not sitting beside Ranma or Nabiki that night. Oh. This is delicious, Kasumi. Did you try a new recipe for the miso soup? Son Tendo asked his eldest daughter, surprised as she never tried any new recipes since his wife passed away years ago. Not that he minded much as her cooking was always delicious and she did alternate what she cooked on a daily basis, so they never ate the same thing 2 days in a row, except for maybe rice. Dad's right, it's different but really good. Akane told her sister, wondering if she should try again to learn to cook if her sister is trying new recipes out of nowhere. Oh, Ranma made the miso soup. Kasumi said cheerfully, recalling the quick but pleasant lesson of teaching him how to use keys. Ranma made this. Both father and daughter yelled back in response, making the other three at the dinner table wince. Gema Satom on the other hand could not believe Kasumi when she told him this. How dare you make her lie for your ego, Ranma? I know your cooking is horrible and not anywhere near as good as hers. He exclaimed, both upset at his son for taking credit for someone else's hard work, but for also claiming to be doing the work of what he thought should be left to women in the household. Kasumi, who was there with Ranma, gave a pinched glare at Gema Satom, shocking her family into an eerie quiet that he noticed. Mr. Satom, the reason Ranma cooking was barely passable was because on the road, all you ever gave him was the bare minimum to cook with, like salt and pepper. And that was if he was lucky. No roadside meal prepared with so very few ingredients cannot compare to a proper meal made in a restaurant or at a home. So do not yell or blame Ranma for something that was your fault as a parent. Kasumi told him, hating that he was insulting Ranma and denying the effort and natural talent the boy had for learning to cook as quickly as he did. Genma fell back on his butt, defeated as he could not argue with Kasumi any further or risk truly insulting his friend's eldest daughter and the only cook that was in the house. He also made the rice. He was very helpful in the kitchen, and it was quite fun cooking with him. Kasumi said smiling, thinking that this was how her mother felt when she cooked with her. Well, it was partly my fault that you couldn't make dinner on time, the least I could do was help you cook. Ranma lightly laughed in embarrassment at the praise he got for what he thought was a basic life skill. But also, happy that someone not only praised, but also defended him for once instead of picking at a fault of his or telling him he had to do better. What is wrong with you, boy? I taught you to be a better man than this. Genma Satomu complained, his fire returning to him as he began getting in a position indicating he was about to stand up. Before he could stand up, he was splashed with a bucket of water and had the bucket itself thrown at his face by Nabiki. Last I checked, most professional chefs are guys, so I don't see why it makes him less of a man to help his sister-in-law cook dinner. Nabiki told him, getting sick man this or man that, if Ranma wanted to cook for them then that just meant less she would have to do in the future. Dinner became awkward and silent that night, with Ranma wanting to get away from their dads by helping Kasumi finish the bento boxes and cleaning the dishes. It was also partially because of how late it was and wanting to help Kasumi be able to get to sleep not too late. So Nabiki, where did the bucket come from? Akane asked her sister. Plot convenience, don't question the author, it's bad for your mental health. Nabiki told her, making Akane worry that her sister hit her head earlier and hit it. China third-person POV Ryoga Hibiki had been through a lot because of Ranma Satomu, at least in his mind he had been through a lot because of Ranma. But now he can add being attacked because he got mistaken as a friend of the annoying BSTRD. Even if he did help walk him home a lot of times when they were younger and were told to come home early. You tell where red-haired pigtailed girl is. No, protect her. A girl with knee-length dark purple hair called out to him, getting into a fighting position as she stood in his way. It was styled with a fringe, had two strands hanging in front that are secured with ties making her seem even longer than it probably was. She wore a metal BRST plate over her shirt like she was some sort of ancient female warrior, and her dark pink eyes burned with a fury deep enough to make even him step back unconsciously after meeting them. Ryoga growled in frustration as this girl was like a brick wall when he was 3 years old. After he turned 4, he started to become able to dent those brick walls. But this was the first time he would admit to not being able to literally smash his way through an obstacle other than Ranma. How many times do I have to tell you? I want to get revenge Ranma Satomu and that pigtailed girl. Ryoga told her, with her seemingly unable to believe he would chase someone as far as China because of the fact he was Japanese. But right as they were about to trade blows again it began to rain, and she knocked his umbrella out of his hand. In mere moments he turned into a little black piglet, making the girl stop. When she tried to pick him up, he tensed up, but unlike the panda that tried to eat him, she looked at him curiously and smiled something wicked. I see, you fall in cursed spring. Pig-tailed girl name Ranma responsible, have idea maybe you like. Shampoo is name, she told him, finally introducing herself to him after chasing him for 3 days. Cautious of this crazy Chinese girl, he listened to her broken Japanese as she explained her plan to him after bringing him and his stuff to a place to set up camp out of the rain. She even helped to make a quick dinner for the two of them to share as they tried to talk more. Despite it being made of mostly nearby edible plants made into a soup with a small amount of rice to accompany it. It was incredibly delicious, far more so than what he could ever make with the same ingredients. So why exactly do you want to kill Ranma? Ryoga asked her, getting a tale of a random red-haired pig-tailed girl calling herself by the same name as his rival, along with a panda eating her prize of food. Then according to her the girl had beaten her in a fight, forcing them to abide by her tribal rules to hunt her down and kill her. She did not want to kill the female Ranma, as she called his rival after finding out they shared a name, but he was fine with that. He would be satisfied if he managed to beat Ranma within an inch of his life after making him suffer hell. As for the red-haired pig-tailed girl, or female Ranma, as Shampoo called them, he did not mind Shampoo killing her as she caused him nothing but hell. If the one that cursed him had been his rival, though said to all hell, he would still not want to kill him as Ranma had done some nice things for him in the past. But it would mean an extra hellish beating compared to what he originally intended to give his old friend, as that idiot Ranma probably saw. Chapter 3 Previous chapter reviews comments AO3 Joe Jackson. I don't want to be the guy to oppose the logic of a comedic fanfic, but Ranma Jusenkyo transformation never is implied to look Chinese. In the anime it's directly XPLCT. He looks exactly like his mother, minus red hair, meaning a feminine version of himself. Also, I don't think the idea of Akane being a man could survive much, even if everyone in Furiken is an idiot, that they are. Mostly because of the changing clothes for PE, like every girl in Akane's class has seen her with basically nothing on, not that it couldn't be a thing for a couple of weeks or whatever. The same way it doesn't look like the other students think that Ranma is two different people after enough situations, only Kuno and Kodachi stay oblivious. Response: to tackle the fact that it seems like you think I wrote Ranma female form to look of Chinese decent. I never explicitly wrote it that they did look like it. It is the other characters assuming Ranma is half Japanese and half Chinese. Mostly based on things like their assumptions, his clothes, as well as his father keeping him out of school to go to China at the beginning of the school year. As for how long the idea that Akane is a guy can stretch out for, keep in mind that Akane was self-conscious about how she looks compared to other girls. So, I doubt she showers at school or changes her underwear in front of the other girls at school normally anyways. As for how easily she can prove it by just getting undressed fully in the locker room. Do you really think any of the girls would have the courage to look at her if she tried that? Now I'm not saying it can stretch out too long, like you said, eventually the truth will be revealed if no one interfered. Eventually if they all learn or accept Ranma is a guy cursed to turn into a girl. Then they will have no choice to accept a non-cursed Akane was really a girl the whole time. But you will find out all in due time. AO3 Hermione_Blackwood. I didn't mean Akane's being bashed here, and I understand where you're going. I was merely pointing out that a rumor that a girl is actually a guy is very mean and dangerous. That's all. Response: my apologies if you feel that I accused you of accusing me of Akane bashing or thought that was how I interpreted it. I just pointed it out in case toxic Akane fans bandwagon onto your thread angrily due to my response of pointing out she needed to be humbled. I may not like her compared to the other female characters. But to be safe, I make it a personal rule to never bash a character in any fanfiction I write. I will however not hesitate to point out their flaws in my stories or make them slightly more prominent to prove a point about their character. And I agree, it would be a dangerous rumor as you will see the repercussions of by the end of this sub-arc or beginning of the next sub-arc, AO3 Nerklo LC. So how many chapters until people learn of the curse and think Ranma is a poor girl raised as a boy with a curse given by her father? Achsachsich response: good question. I don't want to spoil it, but you can thank the introduction of a certain rose for the reveal. Author's notes: I have zero apologies for how I chose to end this chapter, or the next one. That being said, it will be entertaining and get some ideas churning in the heads of those who like to think about and predict where an author goes with their story. As for the poll I previously mentioned about how Akane first kiss with Ranma will go, on that fan-supporting website that starts with AP. It is currently tied between drunk Akane kissing Ranma and Yukio declaring war for Ranma by kissing them. Any Yukio or Akane fans should vote depending on the character they prefer. Though technically there is 3 options for Akane, but each one has a significant difference with how the story will play out. Anyone can vote on it, so don't be shy. Japan Furinkan High Tendo household third-person POV. Originally Ranma would have used his inability to get much sleep as an excuse to do some extra early morning training. Especially since he now has a dojo to do it in, but instead he decided to check out the kitchen where Kasumi was cooking. It seemed relaxing to him yesterday, and after all this nonsense about engagements and uniting the 2 schools, he wanted a brief break from this chaos suddenly injected into his life. Hey Kasumi, do you need any help with getting breakfast together? Ranma, who was in his guy form, asked her as he leaned into the doorway. Oh, Ranma, you don't have to help me again, wouldn't you rather do some morning training? Kasumi asked him, worry laced in her voice as she saw the tired look on his face. Yeah, about that. I need a break from the old man nonsense about engagements and inheriting school and dojo. If they see me training, they will probably get on my case about it. Especially with how on edge they are after yesterday. Just glad my old man passed out drunk crying with your dad in his room last night. Ranma told her, relieved when she motioned him into the kitchen. Can I leave the eggs and sausage to you today? She asked him as he got to it, enjoying the quiet humming of Kasumi in the background as he helped her. But the quiet did not last that long as Akane came down to fill her water bottle with water, but the sight of Ranma helping her sister cook set her off. What are you doing in here? Akane yelled as she pointed a finger at him, with her other fist closed tightly to the point it turned white as a sheet. Calm down Akane, he was just trying to help me with breakfast. Kasumi tried to quickly get her sister to relax, not wanting to argue with her. It was bad enough that everyone thinks he is engaged to be my wife. But now he is acting like it by helping you cook. Akane got angrier at him, now getting absurd ideas that he planned this series of events to reveal how he was really a girl on the inside. Fires of her hatred from yesterday are still burning brightly, with no sign of becoming extinguished. Akane dear, just because he is helping me cook doesn't mean he is acting like a woman. If anything, he will make a good husband one day with how willing he is to help his wife around the house. Kasumi told her, agreeing with Nabiki about how Ranma was a good person, despite the chaos that occurred since he arrived. While also trying to show her why she should be glad their father unintentionally found someone this good for her. Despite the fact that Ranma also did not like the idea of an arranged marriage any more than she did. Just keep away from me at school you freak. Akane yelled at him as she slammed the door to the kitchen shut, a plastic container falling from a shelf above the stovetop as a result. Hitting the handle of the pot filled with still cold water, splashing Ranma. Ranma, are you okay? Kasumi asked him as she knew that pot had salt and pepper in it already. Other than my eyes feeling slightly stingy I'm just fine, I will transform back after so let's finish breakfast. Ranma told her matter of fact, so much so that it made Kasumi question what his father was like growing up. But she still made Ranma rinse his eyes out with cold water from the sink quickly before getting back to cooking. All of this helped to hide the fact that Ranma had begun to cry when they got splashed with that water. Though Kasumi could still feel the pain he felt at Akane calling him a freak but decided to mention it until Ranma wanted to. Nabiki had ended up waking up earlier than she wanted to due to Akane yelling, and the first sight she saw was Ranma in female form helping her sister cook. When they noticed her, it was a quiet stare down between the three of them for a few moments. 2 creamers, 1 sugar in my coffee. Nabiki said before walking to the bathroom. Not wanting to point out the fact that Ranma was not helping his case with her stubborn little sister right now. Use a teaspoon and start with the sugar before you pour the coffee but do the cream last. Kasumi told him, making sure he knew how Nabiki liked it. Ranma was about to finish plating the sausages and eggs so he nodded yes, hoping the coffee will help her focus on her negotiations today. After all, there is no way he could negotiate his way out of this mess with the teachers and Kuno. So, he had no issue helping her like this, even if he would admit it felt humiliating to do so in his female form as it felt he was playing the part of housewife. Not that he would say it out loud after seeing how much Kasumi enjoyed having him offer to help. Yesterday and today. When he delivered it to the table, she looked him up and down, making Ranma pp his head to the side. Too bad Akane wasn't actually born a boy. You would be much better at adjusting to being a wife than she would. Nabiki said sipping her coffee, letting out a relaxed sigh as it tasted just right as it always did. Ranma meanwhile swayed back and forth back into the kitchen. With Nabiki none the wiser as to how painful that blow she just delivered was to him in comparison to anything his father ever dealt to him. Japan Tendo Dojo third-person POV. Rather than going for a light run, Akane decided to take herself to the dojo to practice her kata, despite the morning workout she would be expecting at school. She also destroyed quite a few of the wooden straw dummies she regularly used for training. Be it decapitating them, breaking them in half, and breaking off limbs, all separately or one after destroying the dummies beyond any future use. Idiot! She yelled out as she punched the head off the dummy, with it rolling on the ground across the dojo. Pervert! Akane yelled, giving it a straight kick to the mid-section of the next one and then punching the head off, with the mid-section getting stabbed into the ceiling above. Stopping for a moment, she got to her knees and cried a little, thinking about how she finally met a girl who understands her love for martial arts. Liar! She yelled as she got up and punched off both arms, then delivered a punch to the chest, partially breaking it. All before giving it a roundhouse kick to finish separating the head and main body. DMN it Ranma, why did you have to get my hopes up? Akane told herself dejectedly as she noticed her smell of sweat and went to take a quick morning bath and leave as soon as possible to avoid Ranma. Japan Naruma third-person POV Ranma had run through the neighborhood at a full sprint as soon as Dad and Mr. Tendo had woken up just as he left for school. While they were eating breakfast, Kasumi had set some water to boil for him, which he mixed with some cold water to cool down for his use. Nabiki had left early with an extra bag. He wasn't sure what was in it, but he figured it was important for the negotiations. As for Akane, he found out she really meant it, that she wanted him to stay away from her. Given that she seemed to have skipped breakfast to leave the house early and unseen. She also forgot to get her lunch because she snuck out, so he had to carry both tied together in a cloth. Luckily for him, the route was easy for him to memorize. But when he got splashed with cold water by a random old lady along the way, he took a moment to debate on whether or not to show up today. That was when suddenly. Why the hell do I feel so much bloodlust coming from the direction of the school? Akane. Ranma called out to himself as he realized what, or rather who, it was directed at. Kuno was aiming with his full strength yesterday, both when he was a guy and when Akane and him were on his dad's shoulder. But since he was a girl at the time and Kuno thought he was a real girl, that meant that Akane was his main target. If the other guys in that horde were as sad as Kuno was, then all that bloodlust makes sense. He said to himself as he took off his shoes and put them in his bag as he ran, not wasting a single moment. Japan Furinkan High Courtyard third-person POV. When Ranma got there, he immediately saw a completely different scene from yesterday. Now that none of them were holding back, Akane struggled as she took a few hits here and there. Though not strong enough to beat her in one-on-one fights. When they surrounded her, even if only every 3 or 5 guys managed to get a hit in before going down, the amount of hits would grow over time, weakening her each time. Soon she would go from the rate at what she started to get hit at, to 1 hit every 2 or 3 guys as she exhausted herself. Then going further, this eventually would result in each guy getting 1 hit in, despite them all going down in 1 hit. If Ranma did not help soon, it would be game over for Akane. Especially once Kuno joined the fray from the back of the group. Back off, you jerks. Ranma called out as he threw his bag like a shuriken, tying the lunches around his neck and behind his back. The school bag knocked the hockey mask off of a guy who tried to attack Akane from behind, stunning him as she grabbed the bag while punching him and using it with her own bag to block consecutive hits from a boxer. Ranma took care of the boxer by stomping on his back and slipping off him as he grabbed them and threw them into the crowd to take down 3 more guys. Why? Akane punched another guy in the gut before kicking back into the crowd. Are you? She then threw another guy over her shoulder and on top of a guy charging at Ranma like they used to with her. Helping me? Akane finally finished asking as she threw a haymaker, knocking another guy out right below them, but not before taking a punch to the face. This made Ranma worry, as anger is a powerful force, enough so that even a properly knocked out opponent can get up in mere minutes if that anger is strong enough. Though obviously not regularly seen, as Ranma himself could attest to it as someone who traveled and fought many different people all throughout their life. With this many people it could still happen enough to be a problem. They all were under the presumption that Akane was a cross-dressing guy because of Kuno and his big mouth. So as much as Ranma hated them for ganging up on Akane and attacking her based on unproven assumptions, he could understand why they felt their pride was so badly wounded in a situation like the one they thought was going on. Also, as a result of Kuno's big mouth. All that affection for her being a strong woman was turned into at minimum its equivalent amount of anger for being deceived, if not more so. The only good thing about changing into female form again before school meant that they would hold back when facing Ranma. This made it easier for him to clear the idiots out of his way while defending Akane by making sure to send them flying back or tossing them back into the crowd to keep distance. "Do I really?" Ranma said, roundhouse kicking two guys at once. "Need to explain," he continued as he slapped one guy with his pigtail to throw him off balance before uppercutting him into the attacker after him. "It to you." Ranma finally finished his sentence as he threw a guy behind him that Akane kneed in the stomach and sent flying into another guy coming at her. This angered Akane enough to stop fighting for a moment, forcing Ranma to take a punch to the face before delivering a palm strike to the attacker's throat. It was hitting Ranma in the face that fortunately caused all the fighting from the guys to come to a standstill. This was something none of them wanted, as to hit Ranma at full strength was something they did know if he could take, as they did not see him actually fight until just now. "Of course I don't know why a pervert like you would save me. I bet you just wanted to fight them yourself." Akane yelled in his face, huffing and puffing as he tried to catch his breath after the fighting and yelling. But before Akane could continue, Ranma stopped her by speaking up first. "You're the one who walked in on me in the bath, so you're the pervert, you idiot. Putting aside your anger issues, that kills that cute smile of yours. Of course I want to save someone I care about, even if it's only a little bit." Ranma yelled back, now taking his turn to breathe and breath. He saw confusion come all across Akane's reddening face. "You think I'm cute, and you care about me?" Akane asked in shock, confused at what they heard just now. Completely stunned at what she just heard from Ranma saying out loud and so clearly. It also began to dawn on Ranma as he began to blush so hard his face resembled his hair. Did I say that cute part out loud?" Ranma questioned as he began kneeling down and covering his face as he realized he just confessed it in front of the whole school. Kuno, however, being both the strongest guy at the school before Ranma arrived and the biggest pervert among the students as well. He heard what Ranma said about a bath and realized the implications. "Akane Tendo," Kuno said in such a low, angry, and spine-chilling voice that everyone including Ranma came out of their shock. "Why yes," Akane said in a tone equal parts fearful and questioning as to what angered Kuno now. "Ranma just said you walked in on her in the bath. That means you took advantage of the fact that people thought you were a girl cornering her in the bath. Attempting to force your perverse desires onto her before she could find out you were physically a boy. You swine," Kuno declared, charging at Akane, clearly projecting his desires of what he would do in such a scenario onto Akane. Yup, it was truly a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Well, if Akane was that kind of pervert, but in this case it was just an idiot self-projecting. Ranma reacted quickly and swept Akane off her feet and jumped up to the school wall and up to their class. He then proceeded to throw his fiancée through the open window. As for Ranma himself, he just barely managed to grab hold of the window edge after and got help from the guys to be pulled in right as the warning bell rang to remind students to get to their classrooms. Getting his bag gently passed to him by an embarrassed angry Akane, Ranma pulled out his shoes and put them on despite them being a little big on their female form. So, despite not having the money to realistically do so right now, he was considering buying a second pair to switch in and out of if getting splashed with cold water was going to become a regular thing. As for his confession, he would see the consequences of this soon enough. Japan Furinkan High Vice Principal Office third-person POV. Because she was busy negotiating with the vice principal, Nabiki had no choice but to ignore the ruckus outside, hoping her little sister was smart enough to try to sneak in. I will reiterate it once again, either you pay for a neutral third party with no connection to either the school or our family to examine Akane. Otherwise, you have no choice but to accept that she was born a girl, as I said, since you refuse to allow Dr. Tofu to examine her to give you an answer. Nabiki told him flatly and with complete confidence, knowing the answer she was about to receive. The vice principal was practically gnashing his teeth at the audacity of the student before him. Sadly, He also could not deny that as an older sister she had a right to talk to him about his call yesterday. If only it was her father or older sister, then it would have gone more smoothly like he had hoped. Fine. But if your little sister does anything perverted to the other girls, then they will be treated like a boy and be forced to dress as such. He told her, willing to relent to that but not the cursed nonsense she tried to explain and offered to have Ranma demonstrate to him. Nodding her head satisfied as she was half done. Now then, about what I mentioned about Ranma. Nabiki began to trail off for once as the face of her opponent at the negotiating table was not trembling before her for once. Taking a deep breath, the vice principal sat straight once again, if not for the first time since Nabiki Tendo had entered his office that morning. I will not tolerate this cursed nonsense. If you want to attempt to claim they are transgender like your little sister probably is, then fine. But the same applies to them. If they do anything perverted to the boys, then I will make them conform to all the female standards of the school. Now get out. He told her, annoyed that such a young and clearly feminine girl was actually claiming to be a boy. With a sigh, Nabiki got up and left to go to her sister's homeroom class to explain what she just fixed as well as the phone call she intercepted yesterday. Oh well, he can't complain later that I didn't try to warn him. Nabiki thought smugly, waiting for the day they could reveal it in front of the whole school to shut everyone up. The apologies as well as the money for mental trauma he caused Ranma and her family, that she would wring out of that man would make this trouble so worth it. Japan Furinkan Haya Akane and Ranma homeroom third-person POV, are you okay Akane? One of the girls asked Akane in concern as they all noticed the cuts, scrapes, bruises, and highly damaged uniform their friend was wearing. Why did you jump into such a dangerous situation Ranma? Another one of the girls asked, shocked by how determined Ranma was to protect her fiancé. Yeah, you dove right in the middle of Akane's usual fight, that was pretty reckless, a girl commented with others nodding in approval of such an assessment, thinking Ranma was not as strong as Akane. Many of them assumed it was by pure luck that Ranma held his own like he did. Well, at least she managed to get both of them out of there safely. Someone commented on the daring escape Ranma made with the two of them after their declaration, something the girls would grill Ranma and Akane about later without a doubt. Thus was the landslide of comments and questions as to the sight of an exhausted bare-footed Ranma, who was trying to put on her shoes. DMN it. They're too big for me, I should have gotten a smaller pair. Ranma exclaimed to himself, making it sound like he bought the wrong size and not that he needed two different sized shoes. Right before class could start however, Nabiki had come inside the classroom, knocking on the door as she was holding a pair of old running shoes. You can use these for today. As for my negotiations with the vice principal, well, it was mostly a success. Nabiki told them, as the teacher gave her permission to spend about 10 or 15 minutes giving the two the rough details. Ranma also ended up explaining to them all how he considered himself a guy, which got him odd looks from the other students before the girls smiled. Something that unsettled Akane greatly as she could instinctively tell something had been misinterpreted again but had no time to question it. Chapter 4 Previous chapter reviews comments AO3 Zadly, I'm enjoying the extra chaos of this version of events. I am also really looking forward to Ryoga being tossed into the chaos to see what happens. Zadly the Imp Girl AO3 Nurklo LC, OMG I didn't even think about Ryoga yet, but you are right, he is the first to appear. I expect something like on the Adventures of Guy Kane, TBH, him giving up and trying to woo Ranma is hilarious Ajesh, Nurklo the It Beauty did it first Sointedo Simko. Response, well I have good news for you my heterochromatic reader, even more future canon events will become even more chaotic once I sink my teeth into them. And trust me, you will definitely enjoy what I have planned for Ryoga if you're liking the story so far. As for my very appreciated commenter with the exposed skull, I actually had read that series you mentioned and a few similar series as well. To be clear though, I came up with the idea for this long before I read them, but reading those series did affect how this one will turn out. To give a minor spoiler, I originally planned on Ryoga fighting with Ranma over Akane like in canon. Obviously, this would be a funny twist of everyone thinking Ryoga was gay and him having to deal with that every time he tried to make a move on Akane in public. With Shampoo also joining the fight for Akane with Ranma as a rival but less crazy in canon due to events you will see later on when they're introduced. But now I changed it, but I won't tell you how I changed it exactly. Just know that you're not too far off the mark, but it won't be as straightforward as you may expect. FFN Toshima, Chapter 2 Ranma will always be the king-queen of misunderstanding. Response: normally I would not cover a comment review from a previous chapter after I already posted the next chapter. But in this case I genuinely laughed so hard upon getting the notification and reading that I had to point this one out. You have no idea how much misunderstands Ranma is going to rule over in the coming chapters. So if you liked what was technically the first chapter of the actual story, then you're going to be glad you followed my story. AO3 Nurklo LC, oh no, Ranma, you should bring a thermos tomorrow. Now if you want them to not think of you as a girl, even better, bring the panda. Obviously, I enjoy the comedy too much to really want that oh shoot, question, aside from looking Chinese, does this Ranma know any of the language? I've seen some fics where he actually speaks it a little after taking it from the MSTRS, but doesn't read it a lick. Anyways, great work, didn't expect to appear on the comments from initial chapter ho response, no need to worry about the curse reveal being too early. This is a slow burn FIC estimated to be around 100 chapters minimum when completed. So, all the arcs will get their sweet time in the spotlight. As for your language question, Ranma will eventually learn to read and write it, but right now they only know a few select words and phrases due to their travels. AO3 Caimano, Storia interessant, voglio proprio vedere come si sviluppa. Hai sicuramente acceso la mia curiosità. Translated, interesting story, I really want to see how it develops. You definitely sparked my curiosity. Response: thank you for the compliment, and I hope you really do come back for more as it progresses. The changes to the canon events has only just begun. Author's notes: I should warn you all, this chapter has major feelings, so prepare the tissues if you are sensitive. It will also give a glimpse as to how Dr. Tofu will help the two engaged teens and what his overall role will be in the story. So enjoy them in the future as they slowly enter the story more and more as one of the main characters. Also, just one last thing moving forward, though I may be repeating myself. Yes, there is a difference between innate intelligence and knowledge. Intelligence can be defined as how well one can understand and learn something new, while knowledge can be described as an accumulation of information that has been memorized. Ranma has proven in canon to be lacking in knowledge. But some people mistake a chapter 3/4 into the series and what it says. There is a GG in that chapter where multiple people repeatedly say he has horrible test scores, but his reaction when it's finally revealed is not one of panic but calmness. Which to me, indicates that Ranma had to have semi-decent scores, otherwise even he would fear them being revealed to all of Japan and by extension the world. While yes, Japan does have some of it not the highest testing standards for high schools around the globe. He would have been kicked out quickly in canon if he didn't meet the minimum passing grades at least regularly. Some people try to deny this by using the misspelled kanji as evidence, saying it's fanon. But to me, that is just his particular quirk, like how Akane can never realize Ryoga is Pichan in canon. Even then, it is just a joke used every so often focused on calligraphy. So that doesn't mean his father neglected to at least teach him some basics in other subjects. When the grades are revealed, they are clearly not listed alphabetically as Ranma is revealed after Akane, but his speech bubble blocks it. So even though we do not know his exact grades, ruling out alphabetically listed when read out by the media to the public, that must mean they listed them in order by number. Since Akane got a good score, not to spoil exact number, but I will say it's safely up there. Either Ranma was so nonchalant about his bad grade that a lot of the school is barely passing or failing, which I doubt. Or he actually got a decent score on his tests and slowly improved from barely passing at start of the series to decent scores near the end. So if it seems odd that I stop making as much jokes about Ranma bad grades, that is because he does improve them relatively quickly in canon. Japan Furinkan High Hallway third-person POV closing the door to the classroom, they turned to Nabiki who handed Ranma the shoes and a pair of socks. First put those on, your shoes are too big in female form, and you will have to go to school as a girl for a while. Nabiki told them, with Ranma gratefully accepting the properly sized footwear while still questioning what the second half of what she said meant. What do you mean by that, Nabiki? Akane asked her, wondering how their problem was solved if Ranma had to keep using his girl form. With sigh, she shook her head at her little sister's occasional obliviousness. Yesterday we got a call from the school telling us you had to start wearing the boy uniform and using the boys' facilities. But I was able to get them to back off from that by threatening to bring in a third-party doctor to confirm your physical gender. Though they said if you're caught doing anything dirty to the girls then they will enforce their original plan, not that you would do anything. Nabiki told Akane, seeing the fury on her sister's face, causing her to cover her little sister's mouth with her hand to avoid yelling. Making a shush sign and pointing to the classroom, Akane understood and calmed down, removing her sister's hand from her mouth. There was silence for a moment before Akane punched the wall, making a shallow imprint of her fist in the wall. How dare they call me a pervert, when they... Akane was about to go on a tangent when she realized something. What about Ranma? Akane asked her sister, feeling she should help focus at least a little bit on the Ranma problem after he really saved her today. When I suggested we prove his curse with hot and cold water, they rejected it. So, we need to wait for a school-wide event where we can show everyone all at once. Nabiki said, not wanting to charge Ranma for her old shoes and the socks since she failed to get an immediate resolution like she had assured him. She may not be a martial artist, but if she learnt anything from her father and mother, it was to honor one's own principles. So, she had to make it right since she failed to keep her word with the other party. At least she somewhat salvaged it for the other party. Drooping his head slightly disappointed, he raised it when Akane patted him on the back. Thanks, Nabiki, at least you tried. Ranma told her, relieved for any help in this pain of an but situation. No worries, just remember that you can probably get away with using the boys' toilet, but you still should change privately in an empty bathroom with Akane watching the door for you after PE. Nabiki reminded Ranma, not sure herself how far that pain in the butt vice principal would take this. Japan Furinkan High Akane and Ranma homeroom third-person POV. When they got back into class, Nabiki asked the teacher for a note of which he obliged, as unlike the vice principal, as his position did not require him to go through the headache of arguing with her. With that out of the way for now, they continued class, despite the fact they also heard the bathing together issue from the outburst earlier. Once the first bell for break rang, however, the teacher immediately bolted out of the classroom, not wanting to get in the middle of this mess more than they had to. Ranma and Akane were immediately surrounded by their classmates who bombarded them with questions, quickly devolving into a Q&A session like they were celebrities at a convention. Did you two really take a bath together? One girl asked, red-faced as she covered her mouth shyly. No. It was an accident. Akane responded back, embarrassed by the accusation but now no longer blaming Ranma for it like she did previously. With a gulp, one of the boys asked Ranma, "So is Akane actually a guy down there?" "You sick pervert!" Ranma exclaimed, punching him into the front wall of the class. "She's right, that's a disgusting question for you boys to ask, guys really are perverts." One of the girls exclaimed, upset at the questions they directed to Ranma about Akane. "Don't lump me in with them just because I am a guy." Ranma bit back at them, creating an awkward silence. "Ranma-chan, are you actually a Ranma, Kun?" The first of the girls who broke out of their shock asked him. "DMN straight I am, just because I look like this doesn't mean I am a girl, got it? My old man spent more than enough time trying to beat that DMN lesson into me." Ranma said, always saying one word too many, genuinely shocking even Akane. Though she knew her father's friend seemed like a harsh teacher, an even harsher parent, to the point he would be deemed a bad parent. Akane would have never assumed he reached the point where Ranma would consider it anywhere near actual abuse, rather she assumed he would only consider it harsh training. "Ranma. Akane tried to speak up, even go as far as apologize due to how harsh she was with him when they first met, but she couldn't find the words for it. Ranma winced as he waved his hand at Akane in a dismissive manner. No need to be worried for me, it made me stronger, so at least I got something out of his horrible parenting. Ranma declared, smiling nervously, only now realizing what he said a moment ago sounded like his father abused him, which wasn't wrong, but he did not want to be seen as a weak victim of the annoying BSTRD. How horrible. We won't force you to be a boy like he did, so don't worry. I have some good creams that help with scars and bruises. This was just a few of the reactions as the girls ran up to and hugged a confused Ranma while the guys backed off. They even gave Akane more space in the coming days as Ranma seemed to worry about her more than himself. So, they had to take it easy on Akane to take it easy on Ranma. Both guys and the girls in the school came up with a new theory, however, about their engagement that day. A theory where Ranma and Akane were both transgender and Akane's father was trying to literally straighten them out due to not being tolerant of their life decision. With her father trying to use this engagement to convince Ranma dad to treat them like the girl they clearly were. Classes continued after the break like normal, at least until they got to classical Japanese literature. This is where Ranma showed his true educational ignorance as he barely could read half of it. That was due to his father keeping him out of school for years so inconsistently when he was younger and the significant gap between when he last attended middle school. Everyone else, however, assumed he was a girl who grew up in China and not Japan. The teacher gave up on him quickly and would have used a racial slur when Akane stepped in, just saying, "Sir," which silenced them quickly. Not due to Akane by herself, but because all the girls also glared at them in unison defending Ranma. As a result, no more questions were sent his way after the teacher had recommended to Ranma that they get someone to help tutor them on their Japanese. Luckily for Ranma, lunch was mostly a break from classes, though he would need to ask Akane for help tutoring him at this rate. It was when Akane opened her lunch box she gave it an odd look. "Kasumi omelet looks different than it usually does," Akane commented, seeming hesitant to eat it. "Oh yeah, I made that one," she said. "It was more intense than it was supposed to be." Ranma told her matter of fact, warning her as Kasumi was caught off guard by it herself. "You made it?" Akane exclaimed in a questioning tone, surprised for some reason Ranma helped cook part of her lunch. "Calm down," she said. "It tasted good, but I only started cooking with skis since I came to your house, so I am still learning how to balance them," Ranma told her, internally wondering if his different taste buds in female form made that much of a difference when cooking. Seeing how Akane had not touched her food yet after Ranma took a bite of his own lunch, he sighed. "Fine, I will help you," he said with amused reluctance as he fed her a piece of the omelet using his chopsticks. This made the other girls squeal as Akane blushed and turned away as she chewed. Ranma did not understand this reaction until one of them whispered an indirect kiss, then it made sense to him, causing him to blush as well. Akane was not one to take a hit and just let it go, so she picked up an octopus-shaped weenie from his box and popped it into his mouth. "Pervert, here's a taste of your own medicine," Akane told him, barely able to look his way before Ranma turned away from her as he chewed his food. This got another squeal from the girls as many of them were saying the two were perfect for one another. After that they ate normally, and made small talks with the girls, some of them offering to teach Ranma how to use other makeups her natural looks do not cover. The fact that Kuno didn't show up to bother them made everyone concerned. Ranma and Akane, on the other hand, had silently credited that to Nabiki. Considering Kuno made her seem like a liar who deceived them all by the gender mistake he caused about Akane. The two martial artists could only guess how sad she was with him or what she would do to him. Japan Furinkan High Hallway's courtyard, third-person POV. As soon as the bell rang for the end of the day, Ranma had passed his bag to Akane and knelt, telling her to get on his back. Not taking no for an answer due to being able to see her tough act and knowing she couldn't walk home on her own, Ranma had convinced her somehow to let him carry her on his back. As they got closer to the front door, they saw Nabiki dragging a half-conscious Kuno with his head full of bumps and his nose bloodied. "Why are you dragging him like that?" Ranma asked her, with Akane nodding along with his question. "You first, why is she on your back?" Nabiki shot back, with Ranma shrugging, thinking it was fair to ask. "She didn't break anything, but she did get a few sprains, with a lot of cuts and bruises from her fight this morning. For some reason she thought they wouldn't believe Kuno and attack her half-butted like they did up until now. Ranma said with the second half sarcastically getting an ear pinch from Akane for it. Hey! He exclaimed lightly, more annoyed than hurt. Fair enough, as for your question, he began accusing me of tricking Akane to pretend to be a girl so I could trick them into buying CC photos of her. So, I grabbed his sword and used Dad's basic martial arts lesson he taught me when I was little to beat him for a satisfyingly good few minutes. Nabiki responded, seeing a seething glare from Akane and a shocked jaw-dropping look from Ranma, making the elder Tendo sister roll her eyes. Oh please, will you calm down, they were just photos of you in your training GI. Those perverts had very low standards, so the most I had to show was some collarbone or exposed upper arm muscle. She defended herself, pointing out how none of the pictures were particularly naughty. That doesn't change what you did. Ranma and Akane answered in unison, both not liking the idea of some selling pictures of them. Though Ranma was upset more out of sympathy for Akane as he had yet to experience this. This unison response caused whispers as the two sighed before continuing on to Dr. Tofu. But the horde from earlier blocked their way, at least until Nabiki strained to pull up Kuno to reveal his face to them. I did this. Not Akane. Not Ranma. No one but me, so unless you also want to feel all the fury I myself have today, I suggest you all move aside now. Nabiki said with an ice-cold glare worthy of her nickname, Ice Queen of Furinken High, scaring them to either side of their group as she dropped Kuno. Japan Dr. Tofu Clinic third-person POV. When they got there, the good doctor freaked out at the sight of Akane and Ranma, though mostly Akane as she was in worse condition than Ranma. What happened? Dr. Tofu asked as Ranma laid Akane down on the bed he was appointed to. Well, to put it bluntly, the boys think Akane has a devil's horn and decided to try and kill her. Ranma explained before getting whacked in the head by an embarrassed Akane. Can you explain it to me, Nabiki, while I check her injuries? He told her as he began looking her over and telling Ranma where to get the stuff he needed. It took a while for him to receive the explanation, but when he did get the full picture. Oh wow, here I wanted to study your curse, Ranma, and the effects it had on his body, but worse yet, my impartiality as a doctor is being called into question. Dr. Tofu exclaimed as he bumped his closed fist into his open hand, now done with Akane. That's what has you mad? Ranma exclaimed as the good doctor laughed. Now, I was only joking. But in all honesty, this is ridiculous, and if they refuse to hear me out then I cannot help you much. He responded to Ranma as he began treating their few cuts and checking for any bone damage. He found a sprained wrist that made Ranma cry lightly, with the bad news that he would need to rest it from training. Though it was good that you carried Akane here, you should have let her know your wrist was hurting and rest it. But it should be fine if you move it a little for lighter tasks. Dr. Tofu told Ranma, seeing how little care the young man had for himself. It's fine, I moved and fought before with much worse injuries. Ranma told them, not liking being looked down upon by others, especially Akane. It hurt him even more for some reason he couldn't understand. Nabiki, who was getting tired of sighing, just shook her head. I figured that was the case. On the bright side, no one seems to want to openly argue with Ranma about declaring himself a man. Granted, they won't believe him either, but still, at least they want to be supportive of him. Especially with how accidentally revealed how he was a victim of his dad's abuse to the girls according to what they told us. Nabiki said, laughing lightly and cynically. I am not a victim. Ranma told her back furiously, hating that the word was used to describe him in any way, shape or form. While this declaration made Akane sad, it caused the other two to raise an eyebrow. But you are Ranma. There is nothing wrong with being unable to defend yourself from him when you were younger, just like I couldn't protect myself this morning. Akane told him as she stood up, staring strongly, but then went softer as she compared his situation to what she went through today to empathize with him. To her shock, rather than him calming down like she wanted to try and help him do like he did for her earlier, he instead snapped at her harder. There is a difference between being weak and being stupid. So don't use your stupidity as an excuse to say I'm weak or a victim. Ranma yelled at her, sending her falling back into her chair. She stood up from as Ranma moved past her back to the house. That JRK. That is what I get for trying to cheer them up. Akane yelled, crossing her arms over her chest with a huff. But when she turned to look at her sister and the doctor, they both just shook their heads. What? She responded, knowing that their looks meant disappointment. I may not be Kasumi, but even I know not to try and comfort someone by calling them weak. And he wasn't wrong either. If you had actually thought about it, you should have snuck in through the back assuming they would be angry with you given what Kuno made them think. Nabiki told her sister. But they never fought me seriously before. Akane attempted to rebuttal to her older sister words, who looked done with their conversation. I am going to go home and try to convince Ranma to apologize, probably by tomorrow. Can I leave the remainder of the explanation to you? Nabiki asked Dr. Tofu, who gave her the go-ahead to go home. Oh, I almost forgot, make sure you tell Ranma not to change back tonight in case it makes his injury worse. Dr. Tofu asked her to get a nod from the middle Tendo daughter, who figured Ranma might not be in a rush to change back if he was sulky enough. Don't tell me you're going to say I was in the wrong. Akane sounded offended as she tried to confirm what he was about to say. Well, if I had to say who was wrong, I would say both of you were in the wrong here. But it seems you only gave a half-hearted effort to emphasize with him. He told her as he laughed lightly at the look of confusion on her face. Shaking his head, he decided to start the explanation from the ground up. Let's start with the catalyst of the situation. Ranma transformed in front of the school, correct? Was it on purpose or by accident? Dr. Tofu asked her, seeing her think for a few seconds. I would say yes, and by accident since he wanted to hide his curse. Akane responded to him, now able to think clearly with her always being more relaxed and calmer around the doctor. Good, good. Now you tried to emphasize with him before, but did you still blame him for everyone assuming you were a boy now, rather than Kuno who started the rumor? He asked, seeing hesitance in how she spoke. Of course I do. Well, I mean he is at least half responsible. Kuno wouldn't have come to such a conclusion if Ranma and Nabiki didn't give him fuel for the idea. She told him honestly how she saw it. I see, but even though you were only mistaken as a boy, how do you think Ranma felt when he got cursed a couple weeks back and literally became a girl? After all, he still considers himself a man on the inside, doesn't he? He decided to go just a bit faster with his probing questions. I bet that pervert enjoyed it. He just doesn't want to admit to it and acts like it bothers him. I saw him helping Kasumi cook. She bit back, now showing the doctor where the fault laid in her logic and interpretation. Let's do a mental exercise. What if all your life you struggled and tried your best to be treated like a girl, then suddenly you were treated like a boy out of the blue? He told, already guessing her response. That is happening right now and it's horrible. Akane yelled at him in frustration as she recalled her own past when she was compared to the boys instead of the other girls. That was when it started to dawn on her what she just said, causing her to retreat into a more subdued tone and body posture compared to before. It was horrible, and I ignored how bad Ranma must be feeling from his curse. She said quietly, only looking up when he put his hand on her shoulder. Yes, that's right. Though it is limited, based on what you told me about how he said he grew up the past 16 years with his dad. I would assume any sign of weakness was probably met with harsh reprimand for not being man enough by their older and warped standards. So, when you called him a victim his mind turned it to weak, then it turned weak into. Dr. Tofu trailed off so Akane could finish it herself. Not being a man. I told him to his face he wasn't a man and invalidated the entirety of his life so far since his life has been nothing but training with that in mind. Akane responded, wanting to cry despite seeing the doctor respond with a nod indicating she was right. He was probably already on the verge of snapping from it, but with the curse he got, all his pain mixed with his fear and confusion since he is physically both genders now. Though I made sure to practice the spiritual side of medicine for my patients. I only minored in psychology as part of my medical training, so I could be wrong here. But unlike you who had a mostly stable family that made sure you trained in safety, he did not have that luxury and a proper childhood. So now pushed over the edge and now able to live in a stable environment, his childish side is showing in bad ways. And rather than Kami correcting you for your mistakes like Nabiki did earlier, he was unable to do so, snapping at you. He told her, taking a sip of his tea to rest his throat as it all sunk in for Akane. So then, what am I even supposed to or even can do for him at this point? Akane asked, now feeling horrible, as bad was no longer significant enough to describe it. She ignored how his curse has ruined his life, and she probably made it worse treating him like he was at fault for this shotgun engagement they had to deal with. You give him small but subtle emotional support until he is ready to talk about and confront his trauma. It will take time for him to do so, but as he does, he will become more mature and eventually he will let you help him. But you need to be patient and help him feel like he is still a man despite his curse, even in small ways. Otherwise, he would likely have developed worse habits and personality traits as time went on. But how you help him is up to you. He told her, seeing her on the verge of breaking down, and allowed her to hug him, crying it out for a good few minutes. Lifting her head up, she looked at him. Can it even work? Akane asked him sincerely, as she began to realize that she was more likely the one that betrayed his trust after their first meeting. I don't know about your arranged marriage, but if it's simply fixing things so you can become friends, then yes, it can work. From what I heard and seen, Ranma is a kind person deep down, so just be patient with him. I also wouldn't call him stuff like pervert since he already feels awkward to say the least. Well, at least when it comes to being both physically a boy and a girl. Given how he is a young man, he will most likely want to talk to me first, so don't worry if that happens. It is always easier for young men to come to an older man they look up to for help rather than girls their age. He told her, making sure to add a couple of warnings in there for her. Chapter 5 Previous chapter reviews comments AO3 Zadly, the girls are being so supportive and kind. It's probably helping Ranma feel a little with the emotional confusion of the situation they find themselves in. Dr. Tofu stepping up in a big way, helping Akane mentally come to the correct conclusion versus the wrapped one she was starting to hold. I always get confused by Ranma, they always come off like an egg to me. So I find myself always rooting for the egg to crack in a supportive environment for them, but I don't know that this Ranma is supposed to be an egg or just the standard gender fluid. Either way, I hope between Nabiki having their back and a quickly growing supportive structure they can let a little of that mask slip and start to heal from Genmaze plus parenting. Also, was not expecting to be mentioned in the comments section at the top. I'm excited to see what chaos your story continues to weave, as it has been a very fun story so far. Zadly the imp girl response, yeah, they're supportive alright. As for the Dr. Tofu thing, he is probably the only one Akane would listen to in this scenario. But no matter the story, if it is even the slightest bit true to her character in canon, then it should always be painful for her to admit she was wrong about anything early in the story. Moving on to whether Ranma is an egg or gender fluid, personally I always saw Ranma as more of a gender fluid character than an egg. He always seemed happier to put down that man among men thing his parents are always trying to force on him constantly. But never clearly wants to be 100% girl either, especially with how he only enjoys his cursed form for specific scenarios in short time frames. As for Genmaze plus parenting, as you put it, yeah, it will take a long time to heal from that SHT, but everyone's favorite doctor will be there to help Ranma along with a sister of sorts. And yeah, I always like to respond to comments at the top of the page for everyone to see if the comments are made before the next chapter release. That way more comments across all the different platforms get shared. Author's notes. First off, I loved writing this chapter as this is the true beginning of their relationship in my story. No need for a dangerous skating fight, just some good old-fashioned conversation and heartfelt gestures. For everyone who loved the character development of Akane last chapter, you're going to get your fill again this chapter as well. You will also see Ranma get character development as well. Especially since now that Akane got a sip of what it was like to be Ranma, all he needs now is to get a whole spoonful of what it is like to be Akane. Also, a certain aspect at the last section of the chapter that will pay off in another, maybe 5 sub-arcs. Not sure yet, but there will be a payoff. With all that said, enjoy the story. Japan Tendo household third-person POV. Seeing a fuming Ranma come home, Kasumi and the two fathers wondered what the hell the kids at school did this time. Though none were dumb enough to ask him about it, even Gunma for once did not push his son's buttons and decided to do nothing unless Ranma started behaving like women. Well, in his opinion of what it means to behave like a woman. Noticing the wrapping on one of his wrists, Kasumi immediately picked up on the situation. Especially with how Ranma immediately hid it behind his back when he realized she noticed. "Ranma, do you want to help me cook to take your mind off of today?" She offered to him, knowing full well he needed to do something to get his mind off it, given he was just like Akane in many ways. Kasumi. Ranma should be training not play. Gunma was cut short as Kasumi gave him her version of a furious mask of pure rage, which looked like a very stern and disappointed look in comparison to most others. Even so, it was terrifying to feel when it was directed at you, making anyone with a shred of survival instincts feel unsettled when directed at them. Ranma probably trained enough at school already against the other students, let him have a break from the violence for once. She told them sternly, making even her father, who considered backing up his old friend, stay silent. Turning to Ranma, she smiled, patting his currently shorter head. "What do you want to do?" "It would certainly be good for at least one man in the house to offer to help with the cooking," Kasumi said with a rarely seen intent to make a verbal jab at anyone, let alone her own father. "Sure, but I'm not sure how much I can help you with," Ranma told her, happy he had some sort of physical activity he can do. It also helped that she acknowledged him as a man when asking him to help her. Even if he can only use one hand to do so, it was still better than doing nothing the rest of the night after dinner once he gets his homework done, if he did it now. As such, he agreed readily. Once in the sanctuary of the kitchen, the older girl put some hot water on before gently taking hold of Ranma's injured wrist to look at it. "So, what happened to get it hurt and how bad is it?" she asked him, though not treating him like was helpless, as she knew young men would be very prideful. She still was careful not to look at him any differently than usual. Ranma was relieved after what happened earlier to hear Kasumi talk to him like she did. "Akane didn't realize all the guys would attack, so I had to help that tomboy," Ranma grumbled, looking away from Kasumi when he mentioned Akane. Being far more empathetic than Ranma, she picked up on his feeling of guilt immediately. "Did you argue with Akane again?" Kasumi asked him, knowing though he probably wasn't completely at fault, both him and Akane probably overreacted or said something wrong. "I can't apologize to her," Ranma said with a look of frustration, like they just bit down on a piece of 100% cacao dark chocolate instead of a milk chocolate bar they were expecting, but didn't want to admit it. This was very telling to her. The fact that he said can't rather than won't meant that he was just being stubborn and too embarrassed to give a verbal apology. Then make it up to her with food, that way you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, she told him, knowing it was better to suggest and guide him than to just tell him to do it. That was how her mother handled them growing up after all, so she figured it would work the same for Ranma, who was not much more mature than they were back then. Nodding to her words, they heard the tea kettle begin to steam. "Perfect timing, let's change you back so you can relax," Kasumi told him, grabbing the kettle and about to pour it on his head when Nabiki burst in. "Don't use hot water," she called out to them just in time, making Kasumi stop. "Don't worry Nabiki, I pulled it before it got too hot," Kasumi tried to assure her sister. "No, it's not that," he said, "that it might make Ranma injury worse," Nabiki clarified for her older sister. "Dr. Tofu, do your injuries work like that, Ranma?" Kasumi questioned the boy himself, seeing him look like he got caught doing something bad. "It'll only hurt just a bit more, I can still sleep it off," he countered, just wanting to change back already. Shaking her head with an apologetic look, Kasumi dumped the contents of the kettle down the drain. "I'm sorry Ranma, but you need to learn to take better care of yourself, she told him, feeling bad when she saw his disappointed look, but knew he would quickly get over it. No time to stand there and frown, young men like yourself should be ready to jump right to the tasks in front of you, especially when I am going to need to rely on you. Kasumi told him encouragingly, as it indeed put some bounce back in his step to be called a man or relied upon. By the time Akane had gotten home, making sure to thoroughly wash her face to hide that she cried, dinner was ready. With her having an extra 2 pork buns with her meal, but them being shaped slightly differently than all the others at the table, including the other 2 she had. She knew that Ranma must have cooked again due to Dr. Tofu warned him not to be able to practice martial arts to relax for at least tonight. Her father and Mr. Satomi also had lumps on their heads like they got smacked by something HRD on the top of their heads. As well as small foot-shaped marks covering the area going across from both their black eyes. It did not take Akane long to figure out roughly what the 2 did in her absence. "Hey Kasumi, mind if I help you clean the dishes? Ranma probably still has to do his homework." Akane asked her sister, as she helped to grab everyone's dishes. "Well, since you're already grabbing the dishes, I don't see why not," Kasumi said with delight, waving Ranma up to his room. It was much later after Ranma and everyone went to sleep. Akane had met Kasumi in the kitchen as she asked her to do earlier when washing the dishes. "So Akane, why did you ask to meet me this late, with scissors?" Kasumi trailed in confusion, unsure if she understood her little sister right. "I was hoping you could help me do a quick haircut, this long hair is starting to be a pain to maintain," Akane told her eldest sister, knowing it would not be enough to get her to just say yes. "Are you sure that's the reason?" Kasumi checked with the underlying tone of, "Is it for Ranma?" hanging in the air between them, with Akane clearly acknowledging it with her response. "Of course it is, I don't need long hair to be a girl any more than Ranma needs to be in his male form to be a man," Akane told her, positioning a chair just right before sitting down and holding out the scissors. Kasumi could not help but smile at this as she took the scissors from Akane. "I'm glad you are finally starting to see Ranma and the engagement as an opportunity for something good, rather than a forced burden," Kasumi thought as she helped her sister cut it into a short but still cute hairstyle. She also took note of how Akane was trying to be own person instead of copying her looks. The next morning was quite exciting as everyone was shocked at her new look, with Son Tendo falling face first onto the floor. Kasumi meanwhile, was the only one that was calm about it besides Akane herself, who giggles at this amusing reaction. "Ha!" Gunma Satomi questioned what he was seeing as his friend told him previously with a stern tone, that she tried to look feminine despite being a martial artist. "Akane!" Son Tendo exclaimed as his little girl did something he thought would be unthinkable. "What the?" Ranma questioned what he was seeing before him, as he never once thought Akane would cut her now that everyone at school was questioning her gender. "Why did you cut it?" Nabiki stood there flabbergasted, unsure how the hell she was supposed to defend her little sister's gender with this development. Oh, this. It was annoying maintaining that long hair, and besides, if Ranma is still a man while having been more or less forced to go to school as a girl, then why should cutting my hair short make me any less cute or less of a girl? "Right, Ranma?" Akane asked him, seeing the light blush on his face. "Why yeah, you're cuter with shorter hair, I think." Ranma was caught off guard by the sudden change in attitude and appearance of Akane. Nabiki, not being slow on the uptake, grinned at this development like a Cheshire cat. "What is that look for?" he shouted at her, unsure of why she was directing such a look at him. "Oh, nothing Ranma, I just think I started to understand your type. You really are a reserved yet honest boy, are you? It almost makes me feel like I'm back on the playground in elementary school again," Nabiki said as she laughed, almost choking on the piece of rice she put in her mouth just before she started talking. "Nabiki. Don't make fun of Ranma innocence and show better table manners than talking with your mouth full of food," Kasumi told her, seeing Akane easily hit her in the stomach, which caused Nabiki to spit out the piece of rice she had in her mouth into her father's face. "Serves her right," Ranma grumbled before quickly stuffing his mouth full as he noticed the time. Bad Ranma, just because she teased you doesn't mean you should say something like that. Kasumi scolded Ranma, unconsciously comparing him and treating him like a younger version of Akane. Thank you. Nabiki was about to finish thanking her older sister when said sister continued. Even if what you said about her deserving it was the truth. Kasumi said, making Nabiki regret thanking her. You know what, Ranma, I hope someone from the morning horde gets a good feel of your tips. Nabiki told him, not genuinely wanting those perverts to get that close to him but just wanting to get the spite out of her system before school started. Like hell they will, neither of us are going to let them do that. At least if we go in with full strength and being on guard, we should be able to handle it. Akane told her, dropping her forced efforts to try and be ladylike, similar to how Kasumi was, and accepting her more rougher personality traits as a tomboy again. Yeah, we should, just remember to follow my lead and try to throw them away from you rather than letting them collapse on the ground beneath you. It goes quicker and safer if you use the defeated ones as human weapons on the ones still in the fight. Ranma tried to remind her gently, unlike in Dr. Tofu's office where he previously called her stupid, lashing out at her. To his surprise it seemed he did it right as Akane nodded, also noticing the time, and rushed to finish breakfast, with Ranma going off to grab their lunches. Japan Furinkan High Courtyard, third-person POV. As predicted, there was the usual horde there. While shocked at Akane's new hairstyle as expected, they were strangely subdued for some reason. With Kuno walking forward, an eerie calm on his face that only broke momentarily when his eyes widened when he first got a good look at Akane's face. What do you want now, Kuno? Akane asked, subtly shifting into the cat stance Ranma told her so she could easily dodge any first surprise attacks. With a grunt, Kuno looked down and then up as tears flowed from his eyes, deflating the tension from both Akane and Ranma. We weep at the loss of the appealing flower we thought you were and our wasted time on you. That is nothing to be ashamed of for crying over as men. Kuno said, making the two martial artists notice all the other guys were crying as well with him as they consoled one another. But no matter, we have found a new fighting maiden in the form of Ranma Sayatome and will prevent you from ruining her by making her try to call herself a man to suit your needs. Kuno declared as he lunged at Akane, who, furious beyond words but also distracted due to that fury. Akane tried to take Ranma's earlier advice into account, but immediately switched back to her usual grounded stance, refusing to dodge or run now. Grabbing the sword between her hands, Akane swung him around in a circle around her, clearing about 20 guys in an instant before sending Kuno flying when she let go. All the while Ranma had to duck to avoid Akane hitting him, but with that done the real fight began, or rather real warm-up. It took them about 5 minutes following Ranma's plan, but with 1 minute to spare, Ranma had to once again carry Akane through the window. I am really starting to hate those guys. Ranma said in annoyance with a huff just as the bell rang. Tell me about it, they are the reason I have to relax by breaking cinderblocks at home. Akane told him, recalling she started going through a lot more once Kuno made the school-wide declaration that to date her they had to beat her in a fight. Japan Furinkan High Akane and Ranma classroom third-person POV barely making it on time. The teacher has simply told them to go to their seats, all while the other students were shocked with the teacher barely catching himself from saying anything. As Akane had expected, however, everyone had tried to crowd around them at the first break they got, firing off questions, but like the first day her engagement to Ranma was revealed, her four friends had seemed to be distancing themselves somewhat from in front of the others. Which did sadden her, but it was not something she could blame on anyone except for the fact that they were believing the rumors Kuno had ended up spreading due to his reaction. So, is it true? You know that you're a... One of the girls asked her, seeming unable to finish her sentence. No, I was not born a boy. I would suggest proving it to you girls, but none of you seem to trust me enough to let me do so. Akane told her, slightly irritated at how irrational they were all being with her. But then why are you engaged to a cute girl like Ranma? Another girl asked Akane, pointing to Ranma, who Akane had quickly gone to before they got crowded and separated. I told YA that I may dash, Ranma yelled at them, with her frustration from Kuno's earlier comment about him still bothering him. At least until Akane put an arm in front of them to stop them from continuing. Like I told my family, having short hair doesn't make me any less of a girl than Ranma appearance makes them any less of a man. Which I must ask as his fiancé that you stop using to misgender them despite him telling you all clearly multiple times he is a man. Akane told them, pulling herself close to Ranma as she noticed one of the girls on Ranma's other side looking like she was going to pull Ranma towards her. Don't worry, the rumors are going to go on anyways until we can prove it to the school all at once. Just don't leave me by myself to deal with them. Akane whispered under breath so only Ranma, who she was right up against, could make out what she was saying. Ranma Satom, who spent years constantly traveling with his father, was not used to such physical contact, as such he could only blush and nod with a small smile. While the squealing from the other girls about transgender romance or whatever nonsense it was that Akane had been trying to block from her mind was giving her a headache. Akane herself had to admit internally, Ranma would definitely be considered handsome by most girls in guy form, but in girl form, he was overwhelmingly cute, no questions about. Furinken High Hallway Courtyard, third-person POV. Despite having to escape to the roof to enjoy their lunch properly, Akane and Ranma got through their day all right. With Nabiki joining them along the way as she came to get them to make sure none of the guys tried to jump on the way back. Thanks to her famous Ice Queen stare, the few who did approach them instantly fled. This however piqued Ranma curiosity. Just to double check, you said you stopped your martial art training when you were little, right Nabiki? Ranma asked, with a confused tone that made the two look at him, with Nabiki getting exasperated thinking that he forgot what they told him before. Yes, Ranma, I did. Did you seriously forget this quickly? Nabiki asked him in return, feeling bad this was the base her sister had to work with as a fiancé. You definitely lied to me and everyone else then, because you were definitely directing some of your ki at them when you did that. Ranma told, hoping Akane would learn from this to read ki now that she knew Nabiki was using it the whole time. What? Both Akane and Nabiki herself exclaimed more in shock than questioning what he said. But Nabiki tried to still claim she wasn't using any martial art technique, let alone a ki technique. You did Nabiki, so don't try to lie to me. Unless you just had a natural talent for it and no one in your family realized it. Ranma responded to her, seeing the genuine confusion on their faces and realizing she really did use it by accident. Then why doesn't it work on Kuno? Nabiki asked with anger about this highly difficult martial arts technique that she apparently learned by accident. Don't know. Ranma asked her, tapping his index finger to his lips in contemplation as the two girls almost fell over. As they straightened themselves walking forward, Ranma gave an actual answer to her question. Could it be either he is so stupid he ignores it, or that he really is as tough as he says he is to easily resist such a technique even I want to flinch at? He tells them, unsure of which one it could be, but absolutely sure it was one of those two options. Though Ranma did make sure emphasize that he said want rather than something like would when he mentioned flinching. Either too stupid or too strong, one way or the other, it is hell for us going forward. Akane said in a slightly depressed tone as she also realized she had to deal with that full strength of his from now on. Ranma Saotome, take this. Kuno yelled as he ran at them as they tried to exit, with Ranma unable to block his attack as he had a